with many variations of the story. But that one known fact is murder. Welcome to Friday Night Ghost Frights, a series of real, true encounters with the paranormal and the supernatural. Ghost tales that will frighten you in the depths of the night. When a murder permeates the memories of an old stone home, which story of the sordid affair do you believe? Some may not believe the things I'm about to describe, but I assure you, everything I'm about to tell you is absolutely true. It is up to you, dear viewer, as to whether you believe me or not. In the lower Illinois Valley stands the remnants of a historic stone house, whose ghostly legend contains one known fact, with many variations of the story. But that one known fact is murder. One tale tells us that when Azariah Sweetin finished the construction of the beautiful mansion in the late 1840s, that he held a large housewarming party that went awry. The guests were many, and the whiskey flowed as quickly as the nearby spring. Two of the guests began arguing, basically about nothing, and then suddenly one pulled out a large pocket knife, stabbed the other, and the man died that very night. Another tale tells us that during a Civil War dance held in the grand ballroom of the mansion, two boys began wrestling. One boy's father became angry at the other boy's father and killed the man. Yet another tale that may be related to the last describes the murder as happening outdoors during a military muster and not indoors in the ballroom. Two youths began fighting, and the fathers decided to let them have it out. When the one father told his boy to bite the other boy, the other father became very angry, and they started quarreling. The story goes that Joseph Isham stooped over, and Solomon Henson, thinking that Isham was about to pick something up and throw at him, pulled out a knife and stabbed Isham in the back. Joseph Isham died later that night, and Solomon Henson was arrested for murder, although the charges were later lowered to manslaughter. The final variation is one that we know is fictional, but the retelling of its legend has been incorrectly stated as fact. And that is a tale of the jealous rivalry between two young men fighting it out over the belle of the ball in the mansion's ballroom, which ended in murder. This was a tale woven from the imagination of Mary Hartwell Catherwood, whose uncle owned the mansion after Azariah Sweetin. Her stories of early French explorers and settlers were romances and not historically accurate. Aside from the fact that there was a murder at the house, there is one additional fact that the novelist may have had correct. In her writing, Mary mentioned bloodstains in front of one of the fireplaces. When the house was in better repair, one of the ghostly legends was that at midnight, near the right-hand side of the hearth, bloodstains would suddenly appear, evidence of the grisly tragedy that befell there. Sadly, the house is in complete ruins and there's no way to be able to prove the story today. But there are accounts of a brown stain, partially obscured like old paint, that was splashed across one stone near the hearth, across the seam, and onto another flagstone. Was it a bloodstain? We'll never know. But the ghosts and legends of this house, these and a number more which actually speak of treasure, live on. There's a cave behind the stone mansion, which may be reached by winding and climbing among the rocks. You hold on to stones and branches, and when you find the opening, you descend its sloping throat. It lets you into a high chamber, from which you must creep to another through a barrel-sized portal upon your knees. But pause before you venture on. There is something, yes something, away back in that cavern. Some say it extends miles under the uplands. Some say it only has 5 chambers. But all agree that something is in there, guarding a treasure. Many a bold youth, paired in or in groups, or each venturing in for himself, has tried to find that secret deposit. But all were driven back in a panic to daylight. One man said he stooped to crawl into this last chamber and put his face against almost a multitude of snakes, coiled and writhing and striking. Another man said he heard the voice, ordering him to go back, upon which he went back with great velocity. Indeed, more than one adventurer claimed to have heard that voice. The story of this cave begins in the last century. Actually, for us, the century before that. 3 Frenchmen, driven from their lands and pursued by enemies, came down the Illinois River, which possibly then flowed near the eastern bluff than it does now. The three Frenchmen took refuge in this cave and lived there for a while in security. When they decided to leave, they deposited all of their money safely fastened up in a box in the innermost chamber, agreeing never to touch it again until they might reassemble and divide it. Then they scattered across the country, one perhaps traveling south to the settlement of Kaskaskia, another making for Post St. Vincent of this Northwest Territory, and a third toward that last destination of all, for he was killed. His comrades never saw him again. In time, the two remaining Frenchmen met and agreed to remove the money, considering they had fallen heirs to the third position. So they went to the cave and were about to creep into the last chamber when they saw, yes, they saw something glaring back at them like two bright eyeballs. And they heard a voice that said, "Go back, go back." Under the circumstances, they retired and consulted and tried again. One encouraged the other. If they objected to their taking his share, they felt serious objections to his appropriating the whole. So they crept forward again with determination, and the courageous man pushed the other before him into the rocky strait. The bodiless eyeballs leaped forward in flame, and the voice again uttered the warning, "Go back, go back," with a power of persuasion which drove the foremost man like a ramrod against his follower. They went back and returned no more, leaving their hoardings to the selfish voice. No one has ever yet explored the entire cave. To this day, the voice has a cave to itself, presumably sitting like the dog in the manger, upon a treasure it is not the body to use, nor the heart to give away. Thank you for watching Friday Night Ghost Frights. Please let us know what you think of our show in the comments below. And if you have not yet, please subscribe. I'm Mike Ricksecker. Till next Friday night.